r/AskReddit. It's Patreon says. What happened in your worst job interview? Spassy 19802 says. Fell down the stairs when I was being shown around the building. Ended up breaking both fibula, a few bones in each foot, tearing some ligaments, and cracking my tailbone. This happened in September, and I'm still in pain. After the fall, I sat at the bottom of the stairs crying for about 15 minutes and finally managed to pull myself up. The woman showing me around said, "So does this mean you don't want the rest of the tour?" Piggy Smalls says. Jesus, she didn't even bother to come help you up. That's just cold. Hope you recover soon. Spassy 19802 says. Thank you. I think she didn't realize how badly I was hurt. She saw a scratch and was very concerned about getting me a band-aid. Nice enough lady, just not the brightest. Clear Wine says. I didn't get the job. Said 66,343 says. At an interview for a tech startup, they asked me, if you could be any animal, what would you be? I answered otter because fun, active, work well with their hands and cute as frick. They really debated whether or not to hire me because of that answer because, and I quote, we only hire predators, never prey. And they weren't sure how to quantify an otter because none of them had ever paid the least bit of attention to any sort of animal documentary or read biology or visited a zoo recently. God, that job sucked hard. TW4 Luffy says. I interviewed at a private high school in the USA. They asked me to prepare a brief lesson for some students. My lesson went horribly, several students participated, but several were completely disengaged, particularly students on the left side of the classroom. When I tried to incorporate these students into the lesson, they simply shook their heads and looked back at their phones. I felt like an awful instructor. After, the principal, who had sat in on the teaching demo, asked me why I thought certain students refused to participate. I said they likely weren't interested in the material. The principal then revealed to me that the students on the left side of the class were strong academic students who did not speak English and therefore could not participate in my lesson. However, the principal assured me that they had a strong reputation for training instructors to teach in multilingual classrooms and that I would be running a strong classroom in no time if I accepted their offer. I actually had some experience teaching English as a second language, but no one had mentioned that my teaching demo should cater to students who may be learning English as a second language. I felt that information had been withheld from me in order to ensure that I failed, only for the school to swoop in and say, you may feel worthless now, but don't worry. We can fix you. I honestly considered the position until I realized how manipulative the whole setup was. TL, doctor, I was set up to fail my teaching demo so the principal could sell me on her school's teacher training. Town Aldway 84 says. My background, I'm an Iraq War Army veteran. Shortly after returning home to civilian life, I had an interview. Interviewer made a comment after seeing Army on my resume that she hoped I understood that if an issue arises at work, that I can't just go war mode and shoot the place up. I was appalled someone would even say something that stupid to me. I literally just stood up and told her to interview someone else and left. Looking back, I bet she didn't think it was her audacious comment, but that I actually would have some crazy reaction and walked out. r/AskReddit. Vasilicus says. What would be your job today if you had fulfilled your childhood dream? Junkie_punky says. Washing penguins. Zinasenjak_ says. Astronaut. Awesome Redditor 123 says. Marine biologist. Redditbit the cat says. A writer or a paleontologist. I wish I hadn't let my dad discourage me from being what I wanted. Legitimate_length 263 says. ballerina slash actress slash detective slash princess slash neurosurgeon slash billionaire. Outwards Awkward says, the guy that paints the stripes and lines on roads wasn't a big dreamer but surely realistic. Still Freak 15 says, working a switchboard operating the city's traffic lights. Scrotum Leather says, contract killer. Moriscus says, maritime archaeologist. Unveiling artifacts from ancient Greek and Roman merchant ships and the like. 2/3 done says, Lego master builder probably. Chip Chow says, artist. Not sure of the medium, but it's the job I believed was the coolest. Nev3M1ND says, I'd have a circus like in Madagascar 3. Striking_det1339 says, I wanted to be a cook slash baker. I was a chef for like 3 years for Halloween. Now I'm a lead cook at a restaurant chain, so nothing too crazy and not like Gordon Ramsay, but it's cool to think about. Hockfichus says, I wanted to be a hermit living in Tasmania or the wilds of Yorkshire. I live in neither of those places, but spend rather a lot of time alone in my room. So half of it came true. Bixalis says, singer. Mixup says, I don't honestly remember, sadly. Yellowstar012 says, superhero. Fluffer Shuffles says, owning a Michelin-star restaurant as a chef that made vegetables so good that kids would wanna eat there. I actually won some writing award for this when I was like 10. A Detowiled Things says, I have several marine biologist, a crime scene investigator, a librarian or someone who works at NASA. Good boy buddy says, mathematician lol. Freak_out_bizarre says, a construction worker. Gnome_not_known says, stuntman. 6-2noob says, monster truck team owner and driver. 5 Calatonge 4ZZW1Zard says, I would be in the army. But, frick, that noise, I'm not going to risk my life in a desert somewhere, getting my life regimented to shit. Child me was an absolute dimwit. r/AskReddit. Jimmer Confetti says, faith in humanity restored. What is the kindest thing a stranger has ever done for you? Pug Peppermint says, during one of the worst days of life I was leaving the hospital after visiting a relative, in tears and absolutely devastated because they were very sick and the doctors couldn't tell if they would make it. As I opened the door, an old lady wanted to enter the building. She looked at me and instantly stopped, put her hand softly on my shoulder, and with the softest and most caring voice she said something along the lines, oh dear, it will get better, you'll see it will get better, don't despair, please. It was the way she said it, I could feel she cared. I was so desperate and exhausted, I wanted to just sit in a dark corner and wait for the world to end, but that simple gesture gave me so much strength to keep going for the days to come. It eventually did turn out well, and I still remember that kind lady. I wish her all the happiness in the world. Frolicking Tigger says, I was in the hospital for a couple of months. I had a rolling fever at one point and was too weak to brush out my waist length hair, so it became a bird's nest quickly. I asked for scissors. The head nurse came in to ask for what? I explained. She said that she could help with that. She came back after her shift was over with some sort of oil and a brush. She worked all the knots out of my hair and trimmed it for me. I'm tearing up thinking about it. She was so kind and did it on her time just for me. What a beautiful soul she has to have. My_babyboy_Milo says, when my oldest two kids were babies, they caught a stomach bug real bad. Without the stomach bug, they would have had enough diapers to last until I got paid again. I had around $5 to my name, counted out of wadded up ones and loose change, and needed 2 packs of diapers. I was standing in the diaper aisle looking at the prices and crying. I had enough to buy one of the El Cheapo packs for my son, but my daughter needed a larger size and couldn't use generics due to an allergy. A nice older woman saw me and asked what was wrong. She calmed me down and then bought both packs of diapers for me. I'll never forget that one single act of kindness. Merrilaga Sinkhole says, my son was diagnosed with leukemia and a local cancer charity offered a bunch of services for caregivers. Group therapy, knitting, salsa lessons, etc. I signed up for reflexology and had one massage before COVID hit and in-person services were cancelled. The massage therapist offered to help me meditate over the phone. She called me 3 times a week for a year and taught me how to meditate and helped walk me through the grief I was going through. She sent me a book, which was the last book I read to my son. 2 years later, and I still read a paragraph each night to his empty bed. Catlady 1961A says, a very kind woman of color bought me $15 in food. It may not sound like much, but I had dinner that night. Mother_of_Baggins says, when I flew with my baby for the first time, I was in a rush and left the diaper bag and a guy who was probably late teens who was with his family noticed I left it as I was leaving the plane and handed it to me. I was very grateful and left in a hurry and it took about 15 minutes to get to my connecting flight which was already boarding. I looked for my boarding passes but realized I had left them behind in the plane. I thought I was going to miss my next flight when the same teen comes running up to the gate and said he saw them after I left and followed me across the airport. We made the flight thanks to him. That's all for this video. Was it good? I know not, for I'm a robot. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. This video is the product of an automated process.